Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam! Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Ladies, gentlemen, and everything, welcome to That Silverline Show on Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim TK, joined as always by Cassisi Harris.
Hey.
And special guest, the hardest working man in comics, Victor Dandridge.
Yo, what's going on, everybody?
And,
how we doing today?
We're all doing fantastic over my end. Cassisi, how are you doing?
Outstanding. Yeah. Ready for this. Excited for this.
Let's go.
The ice and snow is finally cleared, and we're able to drive and live life.
Man, yeah, that was a tricky weekend when that all dropped. I was out there for Fan Expo Portland, and the effects were felt. They were definitely felt. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I had two colleagues, cosplayers, Maddie and Adrian, who got stuck out there. And they're like, well, I guess we're a flipper now.
I mean, it's what happens.
Yeah.
You know, death. You just got to deal with it. It's it.
Absolutely.
Make the best of it, yeah.
The exactly. On live. Anyway, but tonight is going to be a special episode. We're going to be talking about what Victor does, his inspirations going forward, his upcoming projects, and some of the cool things that he does in the comic space that aren't necessarily comics production. Some stuff that I think very, very interesting. So first, I'll open up. Victor, where would people know you from? What might they have read? What might they have been seen coming up?
I am that guy that's always at Comic-Con. That's probably where most people know me from.
Yes.
I'm the moderator for most of the panels that people go to. So when you are going and you get a chance to hear a celebrity tell stories about their careers and wonderful adventures, you know, in film and television, voice acting, some comic creators, I'm usually the guy that's on stage right beside them. So it's a fun venture that most people will see me at. But what most people don't know is, in addition to being your friendly neighborhood moderator, I'm a comic book creator. That's kind of what I've been doing. That's my full-time job, has been for the last 13 years. I'm a writer and self-publisher through my imprint Vantage and House Productions, as well as a teacher through my You Create Comics line, where I've gained the title of being a phenomenological narratologist. because that's right. That's a mouthful. It's a big one. That right there, that's a $4 word right there. It's actually 2 words. But I teach the philosophy of storytelling through comics, specifically through an imprint that's designed to go into schools and spaces where how to tell stories is assumed but not necessarily understood by everyone, and that's what I try to make plain for people.
Absolutely, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I got it right here.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. One of the best projects I've ever created. Not even gonna lie.
Definitely. That's actually something that I was really hoping to get into tonight. This Tuesday show, this whole brand thing that we do here, exists not only as a way for us to rant about obscure cross-promotional products from the 90s, but also we do get into the sausage of how you actually make comics, how you develop skill sets as a writer, artist, inker, colorist, even did some episodes in lettering. But the crossroads of media and education is something that I find deeply fascinating and passionate about, which is, starting a podcast is cheaper than getting a degree in education. So
yes, it is.
Yeah. So definitely I want to get into this You Create line that you've started. And how did that come about? Where did you find that passion?
So it's always been something kind of in the back of my head is something that I should do. It really came about, and this is no joke, as a commentary critique on somebody else's project that was similar, but they were missing the key ingredient that I thought was the necessary push to make this successful. A couple years back, and I won't name the name of the company, but they basically would commission up and coming mid-level creators to write and draw comic series based on ideas that little kids gave them, right? It was meant to be like a support for reading, and the kid would with their parent would commission this project, and so the kid would answer a couple of questions or whatever, and then the founder would ship it off to us, and we would write some stuff or draw some stuff for this project, and then send back a finished product for the kid. And as cool as that sounds, and it does sound cool, I'm not going to say that it's not cool, but the magic is the kid being the one who creates it, because there's something very empowering, inspiring when it is your creation and you get to see the process through. I didn't like the idea of shipping it off and the kid never got to see how the sausage was made. Now they just have this product, which is cool, but they don't have the same connection to it. So that's where the literal term "you create comics" comes from, because the idea is I want to empower you to be able to do it. I know I can do it. That's what my job is. But I want to show you that you can do it, and you don't have to wait till you're a grown-up to do it. You can do it today. So that's where the impetus kind of came from. The first project that I ever did was called The Character Crafter. It was a workbook that helps you design your own character from start to finish. And it literally, the design structure of it struck me when I came home after watching a documentary on Jeff Smith, creator of Bone, who also lives here in Columbus, Ohio, where I'm from. And I'm watching this thing, I'm fully inspired, and I'm like, that's the feeling. Like, that feeling right there is what I want to give to kids, and I think the You Create line is what will do it. And so I went home and I sketched out I think it was a 4-page workbook at the time. It's now 8 pages, and I still have the goofy marker sketches that I had for figuring it out, and that's kind of where it came from.
Awesome. So kind of touch on, but so when someone orders You Create Comics, what does that process look like for that kid as they receive it and then work through that book?
So everything that we do is very self-involved, right? So I try to explain processes. The book that Kasisi has is essentially how I've broken down how to make comics in 5 parts. First part is understanding what is a comic, right? And how wide open that actual definition can be. And then what are the, traditional parts of comics that we understand? Okay, when I see these things, these elements working together, this is basically what comics are. And then we start getting into storytelling and things like that. So it literally walks you through the entire process. Everything that I had done before that were products that if you were already acclimated to making comics, you could just jump in and just use them. But then I would do workshops to kind of guide people through how to use those particular projects. One of the things I'm aiming to change in 2024 is creating a series of videos that are of my workshops, but I don't have to be there all the time to walk people through. So that's, the one limitation of You Create Comics is it's strictly me. Like I've made everything. I'm the one that runs the workshops. So if I'm at one place, I can't be anywhere else. That's the one issue that I've had with this brand, but I'm working on it.
Definitely.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
yeah, it's a fantastic project. I love the idea. So currently it sounds like it's something that you are doing, like if you get a con space, something you're doing in between panels or something like that.
Absolutely. In fact, Fan Expo has been a big investor in the You Create Comics line. It started off when I started working with Wizard. They were the first major premier comic convention that gave me a shot using a barter. Like I would do the You Create line for like Children's Day or whatever, and they would give me like free tables, and because they saw like the intrinsic value of family friendly content, hands-on workshop, and an actual comic book creating that like people were raving about. They're like, this is dope. So my next big venture is with Fan Expo, and it could include not just showcasing their family zone, where I premiered the You Create Play line. So instead of the educational value spot, but more so entertainment, I premiered that at Fan Expo New Orleans earlier this year. But I also will be looking at selling You Create Arts comics kits at shows as well.
Fantastic.
Thank
I
you.
love that. Yeah. And sorry, my brain fart.
It happens.
That happens, yeah. Yeah, so we have that going on in addition to running your own publishing house and working on several titles there. So how did you get started in going into comics and making that decision to start your own publishing house?
Oh man, that was a long time coming. I started reading comics with the death of Superman. I hated reading as a child. You had to pay me to read a book. I hated them; they were evil. But I love pop culture. So growing up in the 80s, movies were everything, and so I was a big fan of the Christopher Reeve movies.
Yeah.
And so when they announced on the news that Superman's going to die, I'm like, how do you kill Superman? Like, what? Because I was that kid too. Like, I didn't like to read, but I would watch the news. Like, I wanted to stay informed. I just hated books. So I'm like, well, how do you kill Superman? I want to read that. And my mom heard me say this, right? And gotta love moms because they got those magical ears. She was in the kitchen somewhere. Like, I don't even know what she was doing, but she heard, what was that? What'd you say? And I'm like, I want to read that. She's like, duh. Like literally comes home the next day with a stack of comic books. None of it's Death of Superman because we don't know how comics work yet. But she's like, here, read these. And I start and I'm hooked. So I've been a comic book reader since I was 10. And you dibble dabble, you try things out. I had groups of friends in college that we decided we were going to do conventions together. My first published work was through my brother, one of my best friends, Mike Watson. You can actually, let's see, where is it? Right back here. Nope, this way. The mirror effect is killing me. But you can see his book, Hot Shot, which is the first title that I ever wrote. And he let me play with one of his toys, and I fell in love with writing at that point. And what ended up happening was like I wrote 6.5 issues of this series Hot Shot, and this was like in 2003. And the first issue doesn't come out till 2006. Second issue doesn't come out till 2007. We have a hang up, so 3 doesn't come out in 8. It doesn't come out till 9. And I'm starting to get frustrated because I want to create more stuff. And I'm like, I'm out here. I want to build a name for myself, and I can't do that if more work doesn't come. So I decided to go ahead and launch my own imprint. And so in 2010, I did late 2009, I did my first self-published book ever called Omnibus. It's a horrible book. I hate the book. I actually have a copy of it. It just stares at me. And I'm just like, I don't like you. But like by the end of that year, I'm like, you know what? I want to do this. Like, this is what I want to do. And so I left a cushy state job to make comic books for a living. So I cashed in my retirement and have not looked back.
Fantastic. And yeah, you said you've been running this company for about 13 years now?
Yep. It'll be 14 years in October, which is a special thing for me because that means a third of my life I've actually spent with my own company, being an entrepreneur in comics.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
I imagine, especially in the early years, but we're always learning, but I mentioned earlier, especially, there's a lot of learning that happens. So can you talk to us about some of those challenges you faced or lessons you learned for other people who might be looking to start their own publishing house?
Oh, of course. One of the first things that was a challenge that I had to understand was, one, not everybody understood comics like I did. And that was a very interesting phenomenon, because to my acumen, I might be on par with somebody that's already working for Marvel or DC for what I understand about comics. But my access, I didn't have access to people that were working on that level. I had people that were wanting to get there and therefore didn't quite necessarily understand all the functions and facets of making comics in the same way. So it does make it harder to find great collaborators. So the ones that I did find had to be amazing, because I didn't want to be lopsided in, our pursuits, our efforts. I'm trying to do something big and maybe they fall off or they're not as interested in keeping up with it. So finding that out, that's number one. Not everybody's going to be as into it as you are. Like that's a hard road to walk. And you really have to find those people that are really about it when you're starting out, when you don't have cash to make the most impact on your collaborators. When you are the guy that's like, look, we can split profits, people will slam doors in your face unless they're just as hungry, or at the very least, you have proven in some way, shape, or form that you have something that will get them to where they're trying to get. And that was one of my first things was, at the time, the convention scene was shifting. We had a new player in Reed Pop. And so like one of the first things that I ever did for the Sumerian series, my brother Ren McKenzie, I was like, yo, instead of me paying you a page rate, how about I buy you a table at C2E2 and whatever money you make at this show is your money. And he's like, okay, cool, done. And so we do that. And it's only C2E2's second year. I'm telling him how dope it was the first year because I went and, he sets up, makes his bank, and creating opportunities like that. I'm the guy that is connected to Comic Cons. So when I'm like, well, all right, maybe I can get you a table at this show if you do something like this for, cheaper or free or whatever, and whatever money you make, and I'll connect you. I'll introduce you to other people so that way you get a chance to grow. But that's what I'm leveraging are my connections for exchange of our collaboration. And it's been good. It's been good. So definitely recognize that, number one. Number two, your goal is to get to the place where making comics is not the hard part. That is something that a lot of people like at this stage in my career, I can make comics easily. That's not the question. And that's where you want to get to so that you can really understand what the hard part is. The hard part is marketing and selling your comics. I was good for, I'll make it, move on to the next thing, make something, move on to the next thing. What happens is I get to a certain point, almost 14 years in, where there's people that have never read anything of mine. Despite the fact that you can probably play, 2 degrees of Victor Dandridge in comics, there's a bunch of people that have never read anything of mine. And that's a problem. So that is something that I'm working on as well. So learn as much as you can about making comics and get that out of the way. So that's no longer the hard part. That is number 2. So those are 2 gems that I'll just give to people.
Definitely. It's, and fantastic gems they are, especially talking about marketing being the hard part. That's something that we hammer on here, especially given that other creators here we have are, social media recluses or have not actually gone to a convention even just to walk around it. And for some kids, they get into comics and don't know the steps that actually goes into selling a comic and then actually having that comic produce money.
Yes.
And so that's a topic we constantly revisit. Something we recently talked about is the current ongoing development of digital marketing compared to, even 10 years ago, I'd say that in person was more important, your booth space. But now I feel like I make more connections through, Western Piece Twitter, but Threads now, Instagram, Reddit, all that. So what are some of your thoughts on this bridge going into digital marketing for comics?
The digital marketing side for things is very, very real. The key to it is the thing that will separate a lot of introverted creatives to more successful ones. The more that you can show yourself in these social spaces, the better you'll be. And that's something I've kind of learned as of late, that I never talked about my work enough. Like, that's part of what the issue is. I didn't talk about it, so then why would anybody else? But if you caught me like in person and you asked me a question about work, oh, I'm gonna tell you, and it's gonna be like, and people get so excited, like, oh my God, I've never even heard of this. But I don't talk about it enough so that more people feel that energy. The best part about social media is you don't necessarily have to wait for people to speak back to you for you to continuously talk. And so you can just keep pushing stuff out into the void. Yes, you do want to pay attention and see what kind of things people are resonating with, but you can constantly get that out there. I understand that being introverted makes that hard. You know, you don't want to put yourself out there. You don't want to be seen, but there are ways to get around that. You know, there are ways where instead of it being you, you can put your work front and center. You know, you can put up a page and then like read, you know, the dialogue that you've written for the page as a voiceover. No one actually has to see you, but they still get a part of you by hearing your voice, reading your words, and hearing your intentions by, you know, you presenting like this. So it's all about how you can connect with other people, because as a writer, that's one of the things that you learn when you're on the show floor. If I was an artist, right, you can look at my pictures and you go, I like that, I don't like that, I want that, I don't want that, right? And it's simple. That's a simple transaction. As a writer, I have to get you to like me first before you're even willing to be like, well, let me spend some time with this dude's writing. I don't even know if I like him enough to do that. So the first thing I got to sell is me. Take that same mentality and bring it to social media. You know, that's the thing that I didn't do. So those are the things that I'm working on in 2024.
Very cool. Definitely. I found that as a writer, I do most of my promotion through things like Instagram, and pushing right down Instagram is hard. However, as a miniature painter, that's a lot easier. But then people point out, this miniature painter guy writes comics, and finding weird ways to bridge that in.
Let me ask. So you've obviously been very brave in your career. I mean, you left a job, pursued comics full time. That is pretty brave.
Or crazy, either way.
No, it's brave. Like, at what point? Because you produced a lot, right? Before you, it seems like you ever made that switch to say, I am commercially valid, right? This is a product that I can sell to a person and feel confident selling it. Like, at what point did that snap for you? Because obviously you had made a lot before that. So at what point did it go, you know what, this is something I'm willing to put myself out there and actually sell?
Well, a lot of that came into my work with Freestyle Comics. Big shout out again to my brother Mike Watson, because I was writing something that was important to me that didn't belong to me. And there is something to that. And I know a lot of people get into self-publishing with their own content ideas, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you can take someone else's idea and make it just as important to you, then you know you have like a skill set in storytelling and something like that, where when you can express that same bit of passion to other people, that's how you know you got something. You know, when I could convince Mike that what my words were for his character were better than his words for his character, then selling it to anybody else is easy, because that's going to be the hardest dude ever for me to convince that, like, no, it's like this. And you know, this is the creator. I'm supposed to tell the creator he's wrong. I did, you know, I've done that. Like, listen, we've got mad stories out the wazoo. One time we almost got into a fist fight arguing over a character. I swear. Because I said she's one way, and he's like, no, she's not this way. Like, we literally almost got into a fist fight. It's the greatest thing in the world. But it is in that sensibility of, if I can convince the creator that I'm right, then what customer doesn't want to read what I've got to say? You know, because he's going to be the hardest one. So that is one of the first places I would tell you is find somebody else that you can write something for, so that way you can really test your skill set. Because if you're writing and playing with their toys and you're not good, they're gonna tell you, and then you'll have no choice but either quit or get better. Those are your two options. That is it. Because nobody wants you to play with their toys incorrectly. Nobody.
That's really good. That's good advice. That's good. It's really good.
So yeah, That's a good question.
It's
bold. I mean, you got to have a level of arrogance, like a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's because, and I mean this respectfully, we're in a creative field, and for anyone that's listening, understand this: as much as we have this necessity for creative expression, it is not a part of the hierarchy of survival.
Yes.
That is another level. So we have to recognize that no one, we as creatives are not entitled to live through our creativity. We are not entitled to do that. You have to earn that. Like, no matter what, you have to earn it, and you have to consistently earn it every time. If you try to float, people will call you out. They'll see it, and they have other things that they can be entertained by. They don't need you. So you have to make sure that at the very least, you're producing well enough that they want you. So you can have all the chutzpah that you want, be like, yeah, I'm that dude. But if you don't perform, that will get knocked down very quickly. So you gotta feel it, but then you gotta be it all at the same time.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the quotes I got back to from Hourglass. You gotta have great taste, and then you gotta have so much work to get your skills up to that taste.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. Now, just on your Amazon, Comixology, whatever that amalgamation is now page, you have 13 titles up for purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk us through some of the titles you've created? What do you think some of your favorites are? Which ones do you think people, if they don't know Victor Dandridge at all, what should they read to get to know Victor Dandridge?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. If you've never read anything of mine whatsoever and you just want a blank slate, try it out. I highly recommend Origins Unknown. It is an anthology series. So it is the first volume is made up of 6 short stories where the main characters learn a hidden secret or heritage about themselves that's going to change their fate and possibly the fate of the world. And 2 of those stories so far have branched off into their own series. Because the magical thing of what I've created with Vantage In-House, each title was supposed to be a standalone title. Like, that was the goal. Over time, I found that there were ways to connect them. And so, much in the same way of early comics, like Batman and Superman were not in the same universe per se when they were first created. The magic thing about the Avengers was when, all of those characters showed up together, because like maybe you had 1 or 2 that might have seen if they knew each other, but they didn't say that all of them were in the same universe until Avengers happened. And so it's kind of that same mentality. Like, if you like this thing, you can read this thing, and it's a standalone, much in the same way that manga works. Because I don't necessarily want to write an ongoing series. So I'm giving you enough of a story that you can enjoy, and I move on to something else. But then I connect little threads in between them and go, okay, so if you like this, if you're paying attention to the background, you actually see that happens over here. So start with Origins Unknown. It's easy, non-committal. You just kind of see how you like my vibe. The other thing that I've done with Vantage In-House is we started breaking things down per readership. So we have all ages, teens, young adults, and mature. So as you grow as a reader, we have something that you can read that you will enjoy from us. So for all ages, big shout out. For Origins Unknown, let me give a shout out to Jacob Newell, who did the artwork for that one. Big shout out to him. Veronica Smith provided colors in a new edition for it. So big thanks to her. On the all ages side, we have Wonder Care Presents the Kinderguardians that I did with Justin Castaneda. It is Muppet Babies meets the Justice League. All ages friendly superhero stuff. So if you have someone in your world that is a young reader, just is a kid at heart and wants something lighthearted and fun, that's the series for them. Like I said, Origins Unknown is a little bit more teen centric. Then we have the young adult side, which is The Trouble with Love, which started off as a very sincere one shot, where we have a Superman level character called Apex Prime, world's greatest hero, has a wife and a family, but then falls in love with someone else and has to explain to his son how human he actually is in his love affair. That one has very personal ties. I don't want to give it away. You got to read it to know. But though that one is huge. And then, of course, the Samaritan series, which actually started everything. It was the first book that I self-published through the imprint that I did with Ren McKenzie. We have Smith, who is this quiet superhero, moves into a crime-ridden neighborhood, no costume, no code name, and systematically starts cleaning up the whole block and kind of making a commentary on your sense of responsibility to the neighborhood or environment that you're brought into based on, crime elements and things like that. And if you had that guardian angel that could just stand there and help you fix it, would you let them? Would you be able to appreciate what that person is supposed to do for you? So those are the foundations. That's VIP phase 1 And you know, out of the mix of that, I think that's most of what you see on like Amazon is the phase 1 titles. We have a couple of sequels. So from let's see, from The Trouble with Love, we have Never Too Late. I actually just finished the 3rd issue of that. And we've got one more issue left for that series where in the aftermath of The Trouble with Love, Apex Prime does something a little dangerous to try to fix what went wrong in that first book. That's all I'm gonna tell you. You gotta read it. It's fantastic. We also have Point of Authority Family Ties, which is it's a 3-issue series. The 3rd issue is being worked on right now. Adam Fields is doing the artwork for that one, and Kevin Anthony DaCosto is doing the colors, and it's fantastic. I would be so wrong if I don't give a shout out to Harold Edge for all of his work on the Trouble with Love and Never Too Late series. Absolutely killing it. Then we have Wonders of the Weird and Beyond, which is my love letter to the Fantastic Four. It's phenomenal. It's with Seth DeMoose. We have our first issue that's out right now. That one I think you can get through Indie Planet. Big shout out because I saw that in the piece. Kablam and Indie Planet is one of my favorite spaces and places. Big reps to them. Old Crazy and the 40 Ounces of Death. Now that one's a wild one. Okay, that one's a one shot of crazy proportions that I did with Brian Moss. It is a love letter to Quentin Tarantino, Sam Jackson, and his beautiful movie from 1987 called Leonard Part 6. Have you guys ever heard of Leonard Part 6?
Yes.
Y'all know about Leonard? Nobody else knows about this movie.
Banana Me. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is why we friends right here.
Great movie.
Right here. So the whole point of Old Crazy was the question of could you get just the tail end of a comic, read it and understand it? Back in the day, with the newsstand era, there was no guarantee that you were going to get books in continuity. You know, you sporadically, you might get a book here, there, whatever. And that was the way people had to read it. Like it wasn't until the direct market with back issues that people could get long runs and have an understanding of every single issue. But most of the time they were written as single issue standalone pieces for that very reason. So I wanted to see if I could create a comic where it's a 4-part series, but the only book that I make is part 4. And so that's what that is. It is issue 4 of a 4-part series. Books 1 through 3 don't exist. So
Pretty cool.
What happens? We did get enough of a fanfare about it because, I mean, I'm a jerk. I did make fake covers for 1 through 3.
Oh my gosh.
And I definitely promised that if you said that you had all 4, I would co-sign it. If anybody ever said it online, I would co-sign that you have all 4. And if somebody else started about, I only have 4, can I get 1 through 3? I'm out. I'm sold out. So, what I did do, because again, I'm a jerk. Hold on, let's see if I can grab these.
That's fantastic.
So what I ended up doing at some point is we had so many people that were like, come on, man, you gotta do something with these. And so I did a trade paperback, which has, full issue 4. It's got script in it. We've got an interview with the series artist Brian Moss. But then I'm like, well, yeah, let's just go ahead and make trade paperbacks out of books 1, 2, and 3.
Nice.
Only by doing it, they're blank books. And what I did was I basically give you a synopsis of what's supposed to happen. And I go, you tell me this story. You make the comic of what this is. You know where it's going. Let's see what you got. Let's see what you can do. So it's literally a 4-book trade set. The first 3 books are empty, and you get to tell the story of what actually happens. I premiered those at C2E2, and I kid you not, I'm thinking it's a gag. Nobody's going to buy this. They sold out. They literally sold out. After explaining to people what it was, and they're like, "Oh, that's amazing!" Like I literally had a couple fight. Like I'm telling what it is. Lady is like, "Oh yeah, I want that." Guy with her picks him up, and he's like, "Oh, you want one too?" She's like, "Oh, those aren't for me." He's like, "No, these are mine." It's like, oh, it got dicey. But I literally sold 2 copies to him. It was amazing. So yes, draw it yourself book.
That's amazing.
Thank you. I felt like Drake. I'm not gonna lie. He said he could sell a blank disc. I sold blank comic books.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's your Drake moment.
I could do it.
Well, like I said, the show is about getting how sausage is made. So writing a port for a four-part series without writing issues 1 through 3, I have to imagine that you probably spent a lot of time in your pre-writing, your world building, leading up to that to figure out what parts 1.33 were to not create them.
Actually, no. Like
Okay.
what I did was I had a basic synopsis of what the whole story was going to be, right? Super quick, right? Like this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens. But all of these things happen before I'm actually writing. And that's all I need to know. Like it's not even about super detailed. I don't need to know character names before this or that. It really became, once I started writing 4, what is it that I actually need to know? And those are the things that I actually wrote. And everything else, wide open, literally wide open. So if you want to create a character, go for it. I don't know. They have to die sometime before if they're not in the final issue, but go for it. You know, that's the whole thing. I've never seen anyone do it though. Like all the ones that we sold, no one's ever come back and be like, I did it. I'm just waiting for that.
Okay, so that's a challenge for anyone who has that issue out there. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay.
Let me go back to you create for a second, because
Sure.
in the wake of AI, right, has that forced you to kind of maybe update or think about how you intertwine AI with the creation process for a younger generation getting into comics? Because I mean, ChatGPT and AI art generators are a wonderful thing conceptually.
Yes.
You know, not necessarily to come up with a finished product, but
So I will be flat out honest, and I don't do this often. I am an absolute proponent of AI art. I am for it because I am for the democratization of creativity. As I said before, being a creative, too many people sound entitled to making money in that field, and that's one of the arguments that I can't stand. Oh, why are you using AI when there's all these talented artists? Just because they're there, I don't have to use them. Like, don't put it on me that I have to use them because they exist. Because in their existence, they don't make things easy for me to use them. They don't make things super, cost effective, especially if I'm just dabbling in a space and I don't even understand what the cost factors are. Like, that's a very expensive, hobby to dabble with. Like, you don't want to do that. So I am all for the democratization of it. And I will chastise any creator that comes in and is like, it's stealing. No one told you to put your work on the internet. Nobody did. You chose to do that. And if that is so much of a rooted faction of your identity, why did you put it on this space? If you wouldn't put your social security number out there on the internet, why would you put your art? Do not argue with me about the identity factor when you didn't protect it like your identity. Okay. You will not get that off with me, because I'm just that stalwart about it. And no one has been able to come up with an argument around that facet. I'm not saying that it's not stealing. I'm saying you were stupid for putting it out there if that's what you didn't want. If I put my social on social media, I expect everyone who can do it to do something with it. That's my expectation. If I don't have that expectation, then I'm the stupid one. Like, that's just what it is. So, yeah. What AI has allowed for me to consider is how many different ways can I encourage people to go offline. So everything with the You Create line so far is very tactile, traditional art. It's not digital. And part of the reason for that is I want you to feel what it's like to create something. Again, I am pro AI, but there's something beautiful about the process. And that's what it's for. There are some people that just want to get to the end, and I respect that. You gotta see what it's like in order to know that that's what you want. When you are a practitioner, and these are the guys that are true artists that will never complain about AI, because AI can never do what they do.
Right.
They like the process. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't think it is stealing. I really don't. They like the process. So getting that hands-on action for creativity beats any sort of question about AI, because I'm getting you accustomed to enjoying what that feeling is like. It's not just about the end, because that's not the point. It's not, I made a comic. And I think, in all honesty, the company that I worked for before is closer to AI, this kid put in a couple of things, then you send it off to some creators, and we send you a finished product. You don't have any joy for the process. That's what you create is for, is to give you joy in the process. And what you end up with is not necessarily a comic, but the skills to make them. Yeah. And now, so it's almost AI proof by accident. Like, this thing is old enough that this wasn't even a conversation at the time. But yeah. But, when I go to video for some of my workshops, I'll use AI, Opus clips to make, segmented clips of my stuff so I can promote it. And I'll say, like, this was cut by AI clip. Like, that's the point. It's a tool. Never fear the tool and never assume that the tool is the most important thing. It's you. You're the most important thing. And nobody, again, you create comics. So, not AI. Never worry.
Very good.
Good. I'm sorry, we got off my soapbox.
No,
that's all right. I mean, it's definitely like an interesting point of contention. And what I find almost interesting is that people who are the most anti-AI are not creators, because a lot of the creator chats that I'm in is we're just sending stupid AI like art things we made up at like 3 a.m. at each other.
It's funny.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Like I would say, like when someone sits down to pencil something, right, there's a lot of time, soul, and skill that goes into that, and ends up creating a unique piece of art. AI is not going to replicate that. But what I can use is AI to make a picture of my childhood rabbi as a space wizard and send that to one of my friends.
Absolutely. Yeah. And in the realest of senses, if you are a person that just has a concept, right? If you've written a story, but art is not your thing and you need a cover, why not use the AI art? Because again, you can tell it's AI. Well, then what's the problem? It's not pretending not to be. And what I'm really trying to sell you is not the AI piece, but the book that it just happens to be the cover of. Let it ride.
And I imagine at some point we're going to find some happy medium where every artist uses AI to create like their composition, and then they go from there or something like that.
Here's the dark twisted part. Every artist does in so many different ways right now. If anybody's using Photoshop, Illustrator, those are essentially the same ideas of what the AI is. Instead of you figuring out how to draw a straight line, you hold shift, right? And you use your cursor, your mouse, your pencil, and that straight line appears. That's the same thing. You didn't develop the skill to create a straight line. You used like programmed prompts to create a straight line. You use programmed prompts to create a gradient. Like, these are the same things at play. And for anyone to try to be like, well, no, it's different. No, it's really not. It's really not. Let's get down to it. I am inputting and it is outputting. That is the exact same thing. So let us not be so high and mighty about it, because then what you're doing is you're dispelling your own opportunities to use this correctly. Now, are there ethical things? Absolutely, there are ethical things. But you can't get to the ethical use if all you try to do is decry its existence. Nothing has ever been made better by just saying, well, it shouldn't exist. Whether that's people, art, like nothing has ever worked that way. So you need to go, I respect that it's here. I appreciate that it's here, because it is a step forward in some way, shape, or form. How do I get this to work best for what I want? I love you too, Roland. So, like that's where we need to be.
Right. The genie's already out of the bottle. We can't put it in to figure out how to use it.
Yep.
Boom.
All right. Well, we've hit about our halfway marker, close to. And we have not hit a too strange of a tangent. Everything's been very conceptual. I feel like very helpful for our audience. Yeah. But before we move on, I want to open up. Is there anything that you particularly want to talk about tonight, or anything that you want to promote before we move into the back half of the show?
Sure. One of the big things that I'm doing right now is I have a shoe line. It started off with a clothing line called Geeking, which started off in 2013, so about 10 years ago. And the whole idea, this visual concept, visual essay, if you will, was how we as geeks have become the kings of pop culture. And I thought it was amazing sort of idea that geeking kind of fits together and it's just kind of perfect. And so it started off with a series of hoodies and t-shirts that I call the Crowns and Spec. And I would do different color schemes and things like that. And it was a big push for me to rock these. I loved them. I made hats, did all kinds of wonderful stuff. But as I was moderating, it's kind of discouraged for you to wear branded material when you're moderating. So I had this amazing clothing line that I could not wear when I'm on stage in some of my most important spaces. So what I did was last year, I decided I was going to make something custom just for me, and it was going to be shoes. And so I made a couple of different designs for tennis shoes, and they blew up. Like I would wear them and people were like, what are those? Those are amazing. And like the best thing ever, the way that I knew they were going to hit was when I received the shoes, I was doing a artist residency at a local high school. And nobody is more real when it comes to style and culture than teenagers. Yeah. And so my 40-year-old butt walks in there rocking these shoes. Yo, what are those shoes? Wait. And I'm like, those are my shoes. You made those? Crazy. So what ended up happening was after a year of this, and okay, humble brag, name drop, I apologize. I was at a show in Columbus, GalaxyCon Columbus last year in December, and I'm working with Giancarlo Esposito. And I've worked with him a few times, so we have a great rapport. Energy is fire. And I'm wearing my shoes while on stage because nobody seems to mind when I'm rocking my shoes. Just can't do like a shirt or something like that. Sure. And so, I'm on stage, I'm listening to him, and he's talking, and he's like, I'm sorry, I got to tell you, for the last 20 minutes, I've been paying attention to your shoes. I love your shoe. And I'm like, oh, snap. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So at the end of the panel and everything, I'm like, listen, what size shoe do you wear? And he's like, what you mean? I was like, you said you like my shoes. He's like, oh, I'm not taking your shoes. I said, no, those are my shoes. And he's like, you make those? I said, yeah. He's like, let me get this size. So once he was like, yo, let me get those, I'm like, maybe I need to make these shoes available. And so I did. So through Printify, I have an official store, a geeking/official.printify.me, I think /product. We have 8 designs that are available. And the big thing for me is everything I do has to have some connection to the other brands. So I'm all about philanthropic things. And so my goal for the first quarter is to sell 50 units of my shoes. And when I do, I'm going to take 66% of the profits from that and get shoes for kids in my neighborhood so that they have shoes for the school year next year. So
amazing.
The input that people put into me, I am investing back into my local community, because if you don't do that, what are we doing? You got to take care of those that are coming up under you, just to show I could have been one of those kids one day. You know what I'm saying? So let me do something to make sure that no kid, at the very least, has to go into school with old last year's shoes. They get something brand new and maybe a cool story behind it.
That's pretty good.
That's awesome.
If you need to, I can send you links to all that stuff. Just
yes,
let me know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that. Post that for everyone. Yeah. Very cool. All right. So in our again, it's weird not having tangents of care disorder to the end here. We've been on topic.
I got a question. If we're gonna do questions, I got a question.
Go for it.
So, comics moving forward. I know there's the joy of making it and all this stuff, but when the visual medium is more accessible and you have cell phones, why should I spend the time making comics anymore? What is 2024 and beyond? Why should I make a comic? What is in it?
So the thing about it is, as a storyteller, comics are such a unique format that it allows for you to do on the biggest scale possible what movies do cheaper, right? Like there is no literal movie style budget that goes into making a comic. Your most expensive ones, Marvel, DC, probably cost like $10,000 an issue to make. And that sounds like a lot of money. But if you compare the idea of what a comic can do in terms of storytelling, and you match that against a multi-million-dollar, $200 million movie, it's nothing. That's a pittance. And it's if you're talking Marvel and DC level. So you actually have the opportunity to tell scale of stories in the biggest way possible through that medium. And it's interactive in the way that reading a book isn't, It is accessible in a way that reading a book isn't. There's so many different facets to it. But to your point about the digitalization of life and culture, comics can do the same thing. And I'm not just talking web comics. So one of the things that I've pioneered, we'll call it, is something called cardables. Let's see if I can show this for you guys. So this is a trading card of my book, right? So this is one of the Wonders of the Weird titles, and on the back of it, just like a trading card, we've got information about the issue, but there's a QR code here that when you scan it, takes you to a digital copy of the book. And that is my solution to particularly younger generations that are more digitally minded. How do we get them into comics? Well, just assuming that they're going to, go to Comixology, pay for a book, I don't think that's going to be the thing. I want to give them something like these cards that are collectible, like Pokemon cards are. They can put them in their pocket. And that's one of the big differences of where we are in terms of comic book culture. Back in the day, you would have kids roll up a comic book, put it in their back pocket, run off with their friends, and they're sharing them. Because that's the biggest thing, is sharing the comics. It's not even just having it or reading it. It's giving it to somebody else, like, you read it now. Like, this is dope. You need to read it. So having these cards, you get to actually read the book, but then you can pass the card along to your buddy, and now they get to read the same book that you did. You guys actually get to read together at the same time on your phone or tablet. So we're using the idea of what digital technology offers to our advantage. And I just did a video response. Big shout out to the Comics Pals. It's a great podcast. Couple of guys from the New York area primarily. And they were talking about how they fear that Marvel and DC are going to stop publishing physical books and just kind of move to a digital space. And I'm like, I don't think that they'll do that. But it inspired me to go, you know what? I have every means of offering more digital content in my physical copies. So moving forward, when I produce a physical book, particularly in issue 2 and beyond, it will have a QR code that will give you for free the issue that came before it. Because worst case scenario, like the first book that you get might be issue 2. Well, I'm gonna give you issue 1 digitally along with it. So you can't use the, well, I don't have issue 1, I can't get issue 2. Now issue 2 has issue 1 in it. Oh, snap. And worst case scenario, if they like it, like they like issue 1 and they get their friends, yo, scan this right quick, read this first issue. They're selling the book for me because it is active marketing on my behalf. And it's just giving people access. People get real squirrely when it comes to giving stuff away for free, but you'd be surprised what that brings back to you. So in the digital sense, looking at tablets, the goal is to use it, but not lose the physical attributes that we enjoy. Give them something physical, but put something digital along with it. Why not? Could I make books and slide a cardable in there and be like, share this with a friend? Absolutely. So I should do that. Like, that's your best friend card. You got a comic book, and you take this one and give this to your best friend, whoever that is.
That's dope. Yeah. I love that too in the convention space, because now I feel like the backpack is never enough. Like, I need to carry like a full duffel on the convention floor.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's again recognizing that I've got these cards. I premiered them at San Diego last year, and the idea that I was giving people 4 comics of mine that they could just tuck in their pocket, it was crazy. Like, the response to it was nuts, and that was the best part. And the people that I've given them to of the industry, and the responses from them has been even better. So like Dan DiDio has some, Mark Wade has some, Frank Miller has some. And like all of these guys are like, this is amazing. Like, I never even thought of this. And I'm like, do it. Like, I'm not even saying like this is my idea and you can't do it. I'm imploring everybody, try this, because overtly we all have to work together to save the comic industry. We all have to bring newcomers into it. Why not use something like this to do that? Like, go for it. And you talk about inexpensive. I can get a sheet of these printed at Staples for like $3. So if it's $3 to print these bad boys, and I sell them for $1 each, that's 9 up. I've made $6. Where's the loss? So it's business too. It all works. Yeah.
So what's the? I'm sorry, I'm going to ask another question. So,
go for it.
So what's the end? What's the? I mean, you may not even know, but what's the end game? Like, when you hang your hat up in this industry, what will you have wanted to accomplish? What should I know of you X years into the future?
I want to be the guy who reignites readership. That's my job. That's my goal. So with the You Create line, the tagline, the mission statement is kids who make comics, read comics, and kids who read comics can read anything. So that's part of the first part is I want to go into the school spaces, educational spaces, places where kids got to be for 6-7 hours a day. And I want to show them something cool with comics, get them, make them. I want libraries in schools to have a maker space for comic book material. When, if you're in a space with inclement weather and you got to do indoor recess, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to make some comics. I want that to be the first idea that kids have on indoor recess. If they're not making them, they're playing them out. They're doing something active in the comic space. And then because they're already making comics, they want to read more comics and are looking for different spaces that will provide them comics, whether that's official comic shops, revolutionizing what comic shops look like and how they work. I am a big proponent for saying that comic shops in this modern age, post-COVID, need to stop showcasing work by publisher and start switching up by genre. They need to treat themselves like actual bookstores. You'll get more people. They get to walk in and just find something that they like. If I don't know who's Marvel or DC, but I know I like scary stuff, show me something scary. And it could be Marvel. It could be DC. That could be Deceased. That could be Marvel Zombies. They could be side by side because I like zombies. Like, give me that. That will bring more people into the fold. And it's not a matter of what they already know. They get the opportunity to learn about comics culture. So that's the thing that I want to be on my headstone is that's the dude that grew readership with comics again.
That's very good.
Thank you.
I love the idea of showcasing by genre. It
changes things. Listen, big shout out to Kablam on this one. If you were to name like however many publishers you could off the top of your head, you might be able to get 10, right? Like 10 publishers off the top of your head. But if you look up through Kablam what their genres are, I think there's like 19. So like there's almost twice as many genres that you could actually look for in terms of content versus publishers. How much more like opportunity does that give for people? Like you're doubling people's opportunity to find comics in your shop.
Really?
That's huge. But most people are comfortable. Oh, this is the Marvel section. This is the DC section. This is the manga section. Nah, mix them all up. Mix them up. Let people figure it out.
That's good.
Okay. Kasisi, do you have any more questions before we go into general?
No, go.
Okay.
Go. I don't want to monopolize it. Go.
But you're a co-host too, so but we're kind of moving into now general your stance on comics, things you like, everything all together. Questions that I usually am asking everyone in space. Do you find yourself more so collecting floppies now or trades and collections?
So I'm a terrible comic book collector. I'm not a collector at all. I'll be honest about that. I'm a comic book reader. So what ends up happening for me is I'll get like individual issues, floppies that like blew me away. If I've read it, because that's the other thing is like I did a comic book review series called Black, White, and Red All Over. Big shout out to Comic Town and my co-host Ryan Seymour. Unfortunately, and again, this is all stuff that's near and dear to my heart. The shop closed. So we stopped doing the review show. So I was reading books every week, like 6 to 8 different books every week. And the ones that I loved, I would buy a copy of just because it just made me feel a certain way. I like trade paperbacks just because I like having full stories. And I have a library of books, in the office over here that I just like to read the full thing. I have all 27 trades of the Invincible original run series, and I read them at least twice a year because I love that series. So yes, I could get, the big omnibus edition. I don't necessarily want that. But I do have like the last 12 in individual issues because that mattered to me. Other books, I'll give them away. I've actually got 3 milk crates full of independent books that I've gotten through Kickstarters and things like that. And my intention is to give those away. I want to support, my friends and other creators, but then I want to use these as ways of getting kids from my neighborhood into comics. And so like part of the things I'm going to do this spring is I'm going to go through them and I'm going to go, okay, this is all ages friendly. This is, young adult. This is more mature, and set up like a free comics giveaway in my driveway and see what kind of kids I can get to come through on their bikes and like, let's talk about comic books. Like, tell me your favorite cereal, and based on your cereal, let me give you a comic book based on it. Like something fun and engaging like that. So I'm much more of a trade paperback as a collection, but I will rock with some floppies. I love me some floppies.
For sure. Okay. Is there any particular writer or artist that if you see their work, you're picking that up kind of regardless?
Mark Miller. Miller, hands down. Mark is he's my friend. He's my mentor. He's taught me so much by just watching what he does. He was a big proponent of Black, White, and Red all over. He actually featured it on his website for years. Like, big love to him. Anything from him, I'm definitely getting. Anything from Frank Quitely, yep, give it to me. I want it right now. Those are two names that just stand out right away. Mark Waid is definitely another. Jeff Johns, big shout out to them and Ghost Machine and their new imprint. Him, Brian Hitch, Peter Tomasi. Like, I love to read their work. Dan Mora is another creator that more recently I've fallen in love with. Zach Kaplan, Brian Bucceletto. God, there are a lot of folks. Teenie Howard. Big shout out to Teenie Howard. She is amazing. I rock with her. Not enough ladies in the business, if I'm being honest. Like, I gotta keep that a million. But I've got blanking right now. But like, there's a ton of creators that just off the strength of their name, I'm gonna grab it.
Absolutely.
Just to see at the very least. Are they still fire? Yes, they are. Okay, good.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. All right. What are some weird rituals that you have when you sit down to write? Do you have you have to have a cup of tea? Do you have to have a certain playlist going? What's your thing?
So my thing about writing is I write every story 3 times. That's a little weird. So the first time I write it is in a full prose outline. So I'm breaking down everything that's happening so that I at least have an understanding of the story itself. Then I draw layouts of the story. I can draw. I hate drawing, but I can draw. And that's literally how I wanted to get into comics in the first place, was I want to be an artist. But I hate doing it. So like realizing that, again, as I tell people, since I don't love the journey of drawing, then I'm not an artist. That's not me. So I still do layouts though. And that's how I break things down visually. Then I script the book. So those are my 3 ways of basically writing the story. Once in prose, once visually breaking it down, and then using those breakdowns and describing in a script how I want to describe this to the artist for them to interpret. That's weird. I've been told that many times from people where they're like, that is the most heavy, non-draft oriented thing. It's like, you don't do multiple drafts of them. I'm like, no, I kind of focus down. Like, okay, when I do the outline, what is it that I want to say? That's it. Like, that's it. That's what I want to say. When I break it down into visuals, how do I want to see it? Like, that's it. Like, it's not about, well, let me try this again. Let me try this again. No, that's pretty much it. And then when I script it, this is just my final interpretation. This is what I'm willing to give to somebody else. Yeah, that's about it. I try to, okay. The other thing that I'll do is I'll watch movies that I don't like.
Oh, yeah.
The reason why is it gives me that motivation. If somebody could make this movie that I think is flawed, right? Narratively, specifically flawed. If somebody could get that greenlit, then I can get this done. Right?
Oh, that's it.
And I'm brutal, bro. I'm so brutal. Like, some people, like, I'll throw out names of movies that I'm like, it was trash. People are like, how can you say that? And then I tell them, and they're like, you've ruined that movie for me. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Yes. But narratively, it sucks. But I will turn it on to basically hate write something better to beat that. I gotta beat that right there.
Funny.
So, that's true.
If Jupiter Descending can get so much millions in funding, you can make your dream come true.
Oh my gosh.
If Wonder Woman from 2017.
Oh my
gosh. I said it.
Yeah.
I said it. Listen, anybody that wants to ask the question, Ask me, but I'm warning you. I am warning. This is no joke. I promise you. I promise you. Some of my buddies from San Diego Comic-Con, it got brought up not last year, but the year before. And it's like, Vic hates Wonder Woman. What? How can you say that? And I was like, do you really want me to tell you? Because it will take your joy from this movie. And they're like, nah, the movie's great. Da, da, da. You can count them as it happened. As I'm telling them, like, this is why. And they're like, oh. And I'm like, you're welcome. Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, like I will throw on stuff like that just to get my chi up so I write better.
Absolutely. Okay.
Respectfully, like, listen, I know that was like somebody just asked about Wonder Woman. Don't ask if you don't really mean it. Okay, yeah. Don't ask if you don't really mean it. But yeah, I will eat it up. That one, Rogue One. Oh, I will light up Rogue One. It's bad.
You hate Rogue One. Ah. Oh, I don't want to know. Don't steal my joy. I don't want to. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I got you.
I like Rogue One from the perspective that Gary Whitta has shown the script before it got edited.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? I want to read that. I've never seen that. I want to read that and see if it answers what my issues are. Because if it does, then I'm like, bet.
I mean, imagine
Agent Cub is asking for it.
They're going for it, yeah.
They're asking for it.
My view on the entire Snyderverse is that I've never seen a better example of script written day of for shot list.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. And mine, like, I will be 1,000,000% honest. I was a hardcore defender of Batman v Superman. Like hardcore. Like I'm a dude, like, this is my level of storytelling, okay? The why did you say that name is one of the greatest moments to ever exist in a comic book movie. And I've told people this, and they're like, you are full of it, Victor. I'm like, let me get you there. Let me see if I can get y'all there. Okay, because it's been a while since I've had this conversation. Number one, most geeks were embarrassed because they never realized that their moms had the same name. That's number one. That is a truth. Most people didn't realize it, and it embarrassed them that it was right there in their face and they never saw it. I said, but we'll put that part aside. I said, let's go back to the very beginning of this movie, where we see one of the most gangster showcases in cinema of the death of the Waynes, pulling directly from Dark Knight Returns, right? And so in this one, what do we have happen? We've got, Tom and Martha escorting Bruce down the alleyway. Joe Chill pulls the gun. Now, the thing that we haven't seen before, and this is so very important, is everyone in Gotham is a thug, okay? Everybody in Gotham will throw hands with you. And that's such an important idea because that's how grim and gritty Gotham is. Even the rich will throw hands with you if you draw on them. So dude pulls the gun out, right? There is a 50-50 chance that he's going to shoot Tom, right? Tom is like, hey, 50-50 chance he's going to shoot him. Tom goes for it, right? Dude ends up shooting. Wow, right? If there was 50-50 chance that he was going to shoot Tom, it's like 1,000,000% certain he's going to shoot Martha. 1,000,000% certain. She goes for it because no one in Gotham, excuse my French, is a bitch. They're going to fight you. You got a gun? So I'm throwing hands. So with that moment happening, Martha gets shot. Martha actually dies first, right? Her shot is immediately fatal. Thomas is still alive because he manages to say her name one more time before he dies, right? So that's the catalyst, right? She dies first, literally, and shows Bruce that even in insurmountable odds, you're supposed to fight. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. Whoever you're fighting needs to know you were willing to do it. That's number one, right? So fast forward a little bit where Bruce is having the dream and he's in the mausoleum, right? And the bat thing comes out. The bat thing does not come out equally from Martha and Thomas's grave. It only comes out of Martha's grave. That's where Batman comes from. It wasn't the death of his dad. It wasn't the death of his parents. It was the death of his mom that sparked Batman. That's what it comes from. That's visually what they showed you. It comes from. I fight because of my mom. So when Superman says, I'm fighting because of my mom, Bruce suddenly realizes this dude is not any different than I am. I'm thinking you said that name to trigger me, and you're literally telling me I'm fighting just like you do. And this is why it's one of the greatest comic book moments of all time, because it's the moment where Batman goes, well, damn it. If you're bad, I'm bad, and I'm not bad. So I can't fight you right now. Because I see now you're fighting me because of your mom. That's the whole reason why I'm doing this. That 1% chance that you're bad, I'm just as equal to that.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's all right.
I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Zack Snyder owes me $1 every time I no.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I love it. I love it.
That's great. Okay. Everyone knows that if the one comic.
Roland said still a crap scene.
Yeah,
Sold it though. I sold it though. Okay. I got you thinking about it.
Okay. So everyone knows that if there's one comic they should buy, it's one of yours. But if there is one movie, one game, one TV show, or one novel that people need to buy, interact with, see, what is it?
The Matrix.
Ooh.
That's a series. That's a series, The Matrix.
Okay.
That was the first series that made me understand that I'm a creator. That was the one that the first time I did do that. The first time I watched The Matrix, and this is a weird statement. I was predicting what was going to happen right before it happened. And it's because it's not that I'm that good of a writer yet. It's that it is written so perfectly in sync that what you want to happen is what is about to happen. And that's a great presentation of story. I'm even a fan of 2 and 3. 4, not so much. I'm critical.
Yeah.
2 and 3, though, are great because 2, what it does is it takes something very simple, it makes it complex. And in 3, it takes something very complex, it makes it simple. And people don't necessarily understand that. You know, they get lost because there's things that they just wanted to see visually, but it ups the ante in terms of things for you to think about. And that's what I loved about the Matrix series. Is like the first time he gave us something incredible that we had never experienced before. And then the second and third one gave us that same thing, but just in different capacities, different directions. I can tell you right now, if I was flipping through the channels and I saw the highway scene, I'm going to stop. I'm going to watch the highway scene without question from that moment on. I'm going to watch, the Smith and Neo fights every single time. Every time I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to get something new out of it every single time. You know, there's so much to it that almost, 20 something years later, I'm still thinking like, but wait, was that? But that could have been, and so, yeah. The Matrix is definitely going to be it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay.
Fair.
When you're writing, do you do, so you talk about you write everything 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, lost it. All right. Fantastic.
That's the hard part.
Yes. What is something we revisit every year with the writers on the show is their writing playlist. So what is your writing playlist, and does it change from your phases of your writing?
Yes. Just recently, I was writing. What was I? I was doing Zero Event number 2. It was another book because I'm coming back to Freestyle Comics to write this crossover event, and in order to really get like the feeling of what this is, I was listening to the Sucker Punch soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that movie. I don't like that movie. Yeah, I don't like that movie, but I love the soundtrack. So I was listening to that. I also threw on the What If soundtrack because I thought that was cool. I liked. I listened to Infinity War, Endgame. I listen to scores more than anything to kind of get me into the vibe for writing because there are no words to interrupt me, and then there is just built-in emotion. So if I need to feel a certain thing, I'm kind of just listening to a certain series of a track just so I can get into that headspace of what's that feel like.
Fantastic. Okay.
Because he's gonna be feeling like I'm saying all the right things. Like,
I'm resonating with it. It's good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
He's one of the world's greatest hype men. Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, so we're coming up on our end here. So the meaty question for the end.
Okay.
If there was one piece of advice you could give to new comic creators, particularly, no, we're all writers here, but even if you have something for artists, what is that piece of advice?
One piece of advice. Okay. Well, one piece of advice is think about who you think is the worst comic book writer, comic book artist in the business. Like you just hate every bit of what they have out in the market, their style, all of that. Remember how many more books they have out than you. Yeah. Stay humble about it. Stay humble. Like, I get it. You know, you cannot like their stuff. You can think they're trash, like on a technical, creative level, but respect what they've done that you have yet to do. And as long as you carry that respect, you can engage with them. You can learn from them. Even though you might feel like you have a better skill set in some way, shape, or form, there are things that they have in terms of experience that you have not gained yet, and you will never gain it until you respect the fact that they've already done that. So, yeah, that's my number one piece of advice.
Fantastic.
Very fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Victor Dandridge, thank you for joining us. Tell us what you have coming up, where people can see you next, what people need to be looking for, whatever you want to promote. Now is your time.
Of course, I've got many books coming out that we're uploading to Indie Planet shortly. Things from my last year, I did a campaign, 10 books called The Big Bundle. We're not quite finished. We got 3 more books left to produce under that. But those will all be coming out this year, and super excited for what that's going to look like. I just wrote a movie treatment for the Samaritan series, and that is with the developers now to tell us, whether or not they like where we're going with that. We'll see exactly what they say, because again, I'm trying new spaces and places and trying to get better at all of it. Of course, we've got the geeking shoes, so please, spread the word, buy a pair, tell somebody else to buy a pair, because again, this is all about building up an opportunity to give some kids some shoes. And yeah, I'm about to be everywhere. You guys are going to see more of me than you ever have, and I hope you appreciate it, because I'm not going nowhere. I'm like AI. Genie is not going out. No. We're going to burn brighter than we ever have before.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. For those listening, this has been the Silverline Show on Tuesday. If you want to read anything by Cassici or myself, silverlinecomics.com, buy some merch. We're there. We'll be back next Tuesday with a topic that's on the tab that I closed prematurely. I'm pulling it up now. But you can also check out Wednesday Wham and Silver Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern on those respective days. That's right. Next week, we're talking about how you plan out your year, how do you plan out being productive, what you do when that inevitably goes wrong, and how do you pivot. So
pivot.
Thank you, Victor. We'll be back next week. And make sure to follow Victor Dandridge on all his socials.
Yes.
Hardest Working Man Comics.
Yes.
If you see him at a panel, he is over the country, so go to one of his panels.
Literally, you guys can find me at BegaCon in Orlando this weekend.
Fantastic.
Yes,
So
come see me.
See if you're there. Telling me saw him on Silverline Show on Tuesday. We will be back next week. Victor, we have a saying we say here, which is at some point I will say, until that time, we'll say, make mine Silverline. So if you can,
hold it up.
Of course.
So we'll see you next week, and until that time,
make mine Silverline.
Thank you so much.
I love it.
Hi, my name is Paul Kupperberg. Make mine Silverline.